Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to draw an outline of our hand. So let's take a small brush and we're going to mix up some paint and we're going to draw that outline. That we're going to use to draw the outline, let's try some white and some brown. Let's do some white and brown together and maybe do a little bit more brown than white. There we go. That shouldn't be too hard to see. Maybe do a little bit more brown and make it even easier so everyone can see it very easily. So lots of brown, that'll be nice and easy to see. So let's mix a paint like this. Some brown and some white, we'll use that. So let's put our hand up and go ahead and just start drawing around the outside of it. Now, you see that we have a shadow here. Let's do the shadow too. Let's do the shadow and we'll do the hand as well. We'll do both. Otherwise, it'll just look like a hand that's kind of floating there in the middle of the air. So the shadow and the hand. And if the paint touches your hand a little bit, don't worry about it. We'll just clean our hands up afterwards. All right, let's take our hand away. Whoop. There you go. Now, let's just, if some of your lines are really thick or fat, like down here, or if you didn't complete it, just go ahead. If you want, you can put your hand back, or if you feel confident and you just want to do it yourself, just go ahead and connect the lines. Okay, looks good. Oh, I got paint on my hands. I'm gonna go clean this up and then I'll keep painting. Okay, our hand is nice and clean now. So we're gonna put our first layer of Okay, our hands are nice and clean now. So we're gonna make our first layer of paint on the hand. So let's look at our hand a little bit first. Let's look at it. Looks like we have some, you're gonna need white, we're gonna need the reds and the yellow and the blue. So let's start off with some white. Let's grab some yellow, or some red, sorry. This is the bright red. We have your alizarin crimson red and the bright red. Let's do some of the bright red together. Okay, so we're going to need 2 or 3 different colors that we're going to make. One color is going to be for the very light parts. So let's make that right now. Let's take some white. And we want this to be nice and light. Okay. You know what? We want it even lighter than that. So let's just take the rest of our white, mix it in here. Okay, that's better. That's even still, That's okay. That's about, it could, you wouldn't want it any darker than this. Make sure it's at least as light as that. So we just did red and white, the bright red and white. Let's do a little bit of yellow now. See how much I took? Just a little bit, not a lot. Okay, good. That's a pretty good skin tone. That's not bad. Okay, now we have this guy here that we first did. This one has a little more red when we'd made it. So let's do the same thing. Let's grab a little bit of yellow. Not too much. And then we'll grab a nice piece of blue. Let's mix these ones together. So the blue is pretty strong. So let's take a little bit more red, because right now with that blue, I made it a little bit more gray. Let's grab some more red. It was cooler and less chromatically strong. Let's add the red. Let's increase the chroma, and let's increase the warmth by adding the red. That's pretty good. That's not bad. Okay. That's probably about as dark as we're going to get with our skin tones. So we'll think of that as like our black or our darkest skin color we're going to make. I don't think we'll do anything darker than that. We have this extra paint we have left over from before. I'll throw that in. So we're going to make something in between the two of these. Closer to the lighter one though. This one's pretty dark. Let's mix this in like that. Throw in a little bit of yellow. Oop, that was probably too much yellow. We'll see. The first layer, it's not that big of a thing. It doesn't have to be super perfect. All right, what do we think? That's pretty good. I might actually just add a little bit more red to it. In my case, that's one thing, is your hands might be a little different. Everyone's hands are a little different, different colors. But we'll just start with that for now. All right, so we have 3 reds. I wanted this to be lighter and closer to this. It's a little bit darker. So I think what we'll do is I'll mix one more paint and I'll add some more white onto my palette. And I'll make one that's in between, so I'll have 4 of them. But you can just do 3 at home. Okay, so I just grabbed some more white. I'm gonna mix this up, and I literally can, if I want, just take some of the color I had already made, that darker red, and just kind of add some white to it. And that'll be good enough. Okay, this is just our first layer colors. That's probably gonna be enough. I'll start painting and then we'll see. I might need to mix more, but hopefully not. So we're going to use 2 types of brushes. We're going to use a bigger brush and a smaller brush. Let's start off with the big brush. And all we're going to do is take this lighter one that we made, mix it with some water, get it on the canvas. That's too little paint. I need more. I put too much water into mine. Uh-oh! So I need to get some more paint, put it into there, and then I can keep going. So let's go mix some more paint on the palette. Okay, I wiped the water off my brush. So we just have some paint here now. Now while we're doing this, you can have your palette sitting next to it, and you can kind of look at your hand sometimes and see if it's okay. So you see with my hand, it's lighter at the bottom down here, a little bit lighter, and it gets a little darker as it goes up. And when you look down here, my hand is a little more red to it, and then up here my hand has a little more yellow. But with the first layer, it's okay if it's not exact, it can be off. You just want to put enough paint down so that it's not too thin. You want it to be thick, and this is really thin. Jeez. So I'm gonna have to wipe away some of it. I think there's just too much water. Just wipe away too much water. Let's try again. Let's grab some paint. There we go. That's better. We want it to be thick, not too thick that it sticks out too much, but we want it to kind of cover it. And so much of the gray from the first layer we put down is showing through, and we don't want so much of that to show through. Let's grab some titanium white. Enough of this shit. There we go. So this is much lighter than my hand is. This looks really light. Let's add some paint to it. Let's add some of this darker colors that we've made. And looking at my hand right now, I can see my hand has a lot more yellow than what we mixed. So I'm going to take a little bit more yellow, and I'm going to mix it into what I've already done. I'm showing you this because you guys, all of your hands will be a little bit different. So you might need to add a little more yellow, a little more red. Just depends on what part of your hand or what your hand even looks like, because everyone's hand looks a little bit different. Took some of this yellow. We're going to try and put it on the thing of the hand. Now remember, while we're painting, we don't want to spoil this nice line we made around the hand. So try not to spoil that. Try not to paint into it. Keep your paint inside the lines. So once I'm starting to get to the edge, I'm going to be nice and smooth with it, and I'm going to let the paint mix into the brown I made a little bit. There we go. That's better. That's closer to what it actually looks like. Let's grab a little bit more. Put it in the center. Good. It's okay if it's not exactly right. As long as it's pretty close, it's okay. It's just our first layer. Okay, now that I've done the main inside of the hand, I have to do the fingers. Now this brush I have is a little too big for the fingers, so we'll use this brush. This is the same one I used to do the outline. If you have another brush you want to use, that's fine. If you're going to use the same brush that you used for your outline, make sure that you clean the paint off of it first before you start doing your skin colors. Okay, got the paint off of it. Now let's look at my hand and the fingers. It's a little darker, especially at the tops. And with this paint that I mixed at first, this has too much red into it. So we need to mix a little more yellow. If you look at my finger and you look at that one's got more red. Okay, this is really dark, but it's okay. This mixed with this is going to work pretty well. So I'm going to take some of my darker paint, start to put it down. Take some of the lighter paint now. We'll start to put them together. See how I'm blending that outline we made a little bit? Just a really soft blend. I'm being really careful when I do that, not to push outside of what we did with the outline. We're just nicely blending them together a little bit. So let's look at that compared to my hand. That's a lot darker. So let's take this, add some white to it, because it needs to be lighter. When we add the white to it, that's a lot of white. Take some of this, some yellow, and we'll make a lighter one. Okay. That's probably even a little too light now. You see how you're always pushing back and forth to find just the right color. A little more red, a little more yellow. There we go. That's pretty close. That's close enough. And all we needed to make that was white, bright red, some yellow, and some blue. That's all you need to do to make it. You also, when we do the final layer, we might use some of the alizarin crimson, but for most of it you can just use white, bright red, yellow, and blue. Ultramarine blue. Okay, let's take this nice paint we mixed up. Start throwing it down. So you see when I'm putting the paint down, I don't mix it into the side right away, like the brown that we used to outline the hand. At first I'm just trying to kind of put it in the middle, and once I have all the fingers with paint inside of them, I think my thumb might be a little warmer, or it's just a little bit lighter. Thumb is a little bit lighter, so my thumb is a little bit lighter. So I already still have my light paint. When I take some of the light paint mixed into this one, we'll get something that's a little lighter. But even still, you see I'm not touching the sides yet. I'm just going to put a little bit of paint down first. Let's look at my thumb. Good. Okay. And one last thing I'll do. Like we already said, this one's a little too dark. So let's erase away the paint. It was too dark. We don't want to keep trying to put more and more and more paint on top of this to make it right, because then you'll just have this finger with a big thick glob of paint. And you want the paint to kind of be the same for all of it. You don't want big thick globs on one part and then a little thin little bit on another. Okay. Awesome. Now let's start to work the sides, the brown we used to outline it. Let's work it in a little bit. So remember, don't go outside of the outline. Whatever you do, don't go outside of the outline. Just blend them together a little bit like this. So you see a neat little thing when you're painting. So you saw when my brush was painting it like this right side of my brush, or I guess on the video it's left side, it's backwards, but the one side of the brush that's actually blending stuff, the brown, that side of the brush is going to get darker. This side's lighter, it has lighter paint, this side's darker. So when I go to paint this side of the finger, I'm going to flip the brush around, and this side that has the darker paint can keep doing what it was doing, mixing that brown in with the skin tone. Flip the brush. And you don't even need any more paint. If you do this fast enough with your acrylic paint, you won't even need to mix any more paint. You won't need to add any more onto your brush. You can just keep mixing. But if you do need to add some more paint, it's okay. You just take some of your skin tone that you mixed and just put it down next to the brown and slowly blend them in a little bit. Okay, I didn't do the tips of the fingers. That's where your nails are. Those are going to be more red. There we go. It's not bad. So let's mix the top of the fingers. This paint we mixed before that had a lot of red, the first thing I did, that's actually very close to the color of the nails. How about that? So let's just grab that. And that's pretty close actually to the color of the nail. It's a little darker, a little bit. Remember, don't go outside of your brown outline. Okay. So let's look at my hand and look at the painting. So mine are lighter like I thought they would be. And there's a little bit of skin you see that comes out the side next to the nail. Let's try and make this nail lighter than what I put down. And I'm going to have the skin on the side of it be a little bit, I'll show that skin too for each one of these nails. I'm not doing the thumb right now, but I easily could have. So let's take the same paint we used before. And this time, this is the paint I used to do the skin. Let's make it a little bit warmer because the ends of your fingers are always a little bit warmer. And I'll add a little bit of white to it too. There we go. See how we're being careful not to do the outline of the hand. We're careful not to go past the outline of the hand. Okay. Awesome. And the thumb. There's some skin here and then the nail. And it's a little bit darker and a little bit warmer. So the red itself is darker than the skin I had already set up, so let's just add a little bit of red. Okay. And I can see how on the inside of my thumb it's very warm right there, very red, and then it gets a lot lighter and yellow on this side. So let's keep up that warmer kind of reddish. Okay, now I just need to do my nail. So the difference between the nail and the skin, in this case, this is like the really warm skin. This nail, it's a little cooler. For the most part, it has more of a purple kind of look to it. These nails are all a little too dark. So let's mix up some nail color. So I'm going to do this from scratch just to make it easy for you guys so you know how to do it. So nails, let's take some white. Let's take a little bit of the alizarin crimson. If you have just the bright red, it's okay, you can use it. It just might not look exactly like it would. We have a nice cool purple. You know what? That's even kind of too cool anyway. Forget about it. So let's mix the nail. We're going to use white, some red, a little tiny bit of blue, Get some more red in that. Get even more red in that. A little more red. And now if I were to just mix the nail color like it's going to be for that thumb, it'll have a little bit more skin color to it, just a little bit. And that's pretty close to what the nail color would actually look like. So, throw down the nail color, staying inside the lines. Let's look at our hand while we do it. Now let's do the other ones. Okay. So the fingers are a little darker in my painting than they are in real life. If you want to do an even better job and tighten things up, I think I will. I'll make it a little lighter, but I don't have to make it the whole thing lighter. I have this nice thing going right now where the brown we used for the edge of the finger is showing some turning from the edge of the finger going in. So I'm going to create some more feeling of it turning, of the finger actually like turning. Like your finger does. If you look at it, your finger has the side and then it slowly turns a corner and goes around. It's kind of like a rectangular prism, but it does have turning. So to do that, I will just take some of lighter paint that I've already mixed up. That's a little too chromatically, it's not very strong. So let's just mix a whole new thing. So I'm going to mix up some white, bright red, yellow. I think I'll grab some more bright red and yellow. Is that too warm? Yeah, it's too warm. Too much red. Throw in a little more yellow because our fingers are nice and yellowy. Mine are anyway. Maybe even a little more yellow on that. And now let's finish this off. We'll just put a little bit of lighter paint kind of in the center. And I'll blend the sides of that into what I already have. And you can already kind of start to see it turning a little bit. You guys don't have to do that. If you get your colors right the first time and it's one flat color, it's okay, that's fine. It's the first layer, so it doesn't have to be so, doesn't have to have that kind of turning look. Okay. Oh, just the thumb. I think we'll fix that a little more better than what it is right now. Let's just take that same color I mixed and just throw it in there. Okay. So there was also the shadow that was kind of down here and here. So in order to make our shadow, we're going to make a black, or close to a black anyway. I think I'll make it a little warmer. It might depend for you on what your hand is resting on, but to make the black, you could take some brown. Hopefully you have burnt umber. That's really the brown that you want. Some blue, ultramarine blue. If you mix those two together, I'm going to put a little more burnt umber to get in mine so it's warmer and it's not super close to a black, but you'll notice that you get a pretty dark color when you mix the burnt umber and the blue together. That's what I'm going to use to do the shadow. Stay inside the lines. Use a small brush. If you're not sure if you lost where your shadow was, just put your hand up to it again. Kind of see what your hand does. So my hand actually kind of went in like that and then went out like that. And on this side, this is supposed to be like a shadow. You can pay attention if you want to, guys, if you want to take your time. I'm going fast, but you guys can really look at your finger, and you can look at the way the finger divots in and then out at the knuckle and then in again and then out at the knuckle. All of our hands do that. So you have the knuckle and then it goes in, and then you have another knuckle, it goes out. But when you look at that in and out, sorry, out, in, when you see that bulging in and out like that, don't over show that. Don't exaggerate it bigger than it is. It's a very subtle in and out. It's not a big in and out. But yeah, that's pretty good. That's good enough. Good enough. Okay. So, oh, one last thing actually. I can see my hand, it goes from lighter to darker as it goes like that. So I want to show that there, that lighter to darker. I'll take my big brush again. We'll do this really fast. Let's mix together some paint. We could take the darker one that I already made, throw a little bit of skin tone in with it, and throw some red and some yellow. That's the nice thing about working with making your own black with like brown and blue, because I'm starting to mix paint in with it and it's reacting very well. It's not, the black isn't too strong. It's mixing really well with the other paint. It's not overtaking it. Let's look at this and look at my hand. Wow, it's not bad actually. You know what? That's not bad. Let's just throw some in like that. And you know what? It kind of even goes up here a little bit. So let's just go like that even. Throw a little more on there, make it a little darker so you get more of a darker to lighter kind of look. And one other thing too, I notice it gets kind of darker here. This section, the bottom of my thumb is kind of darker, so why don't we go ahead and throw some paint down there too. Okay, that's our first layer. It kind of looks ugly. Don't worry about it. You got the paint down, you have the shape, you have the colors right. As long as you keep the shape and you get the colors right and the values right, and you maybe work the edges like I did a little bit. It's okay if you didn't though. That's enough. The next layer we put on top of that, we'll finish it off.